Welcome to the online class, my dear students. Today we are going to discuss these topics. First one, creating objects. Next topic, accessing class members. Accessing members. Right? We already know what is the mean by object as well as what is the mean by members of a class. Let us see first topic, creating objects. Creating objects means, in the last class what we discussed how to write code for the member functions. That is, we discussed it is possible to write code for the member function in a two way. First one is inside the class member function definition. Second one is outside the class member function definition. It means now we are able to create a call with the members. That is, members means it includes data members as well as member functions, and now we are able to write code for those member functions, right? And the next thing is, today we are going to discuss a very important concept, that is creating objects. Creating objects means implementing objects in our program, means declaring objects in our program, right? So till now what we discussed, we are able to create a class with some data member functions, and afterwards what we discussed, we are able to now write code for the member functions. It may be in two way, that is, one is inside the class, another one is outside the class, right? So today we are going to discuss create objects for the class. How to create objects in a class, or we can say how to declare objects for the class. That thing we are going to discuss. And in the second concept, accessing members of a class, means in the class we have members, that is data members as well as member functions. How to access means how to take those data members, how to use those member functions of a class. That thing we are going to discuss now. Let us see first, creating objects means declaring objects in the program. Declaring objects in the program means where we have to declare objects in the program. Here also we can declare objects in two ways. First one is, objects are declared in the main function first statement, that is, in the main function in the main function first statement place we can declare object, or else other than this where it is possible to declare objects means after closing of class bracket, means a class is ended with closing blower bracket, afterwards followed by semicolon, right? So objects can also be declared after closing of class bracket. Before semicolon we have to declare objects. These are the two ways where we can declare objects of the class. Object is a very important topic concerned to object oriented programming, because with the help of object only it is possible to access data members as well as member functions of a class, right? So in the very first class just we take under the definition of object. What are objects? Objects are nothing but class variables. Class is one of the user defined data type. When class is a user defined data type means it must have some variable, right? So those variables are nothing but class variables are nothing but objects. So what is the data type for the class? For the object means class name is the data type of the objects. Let us see first here. So first I am going to explain how the objects are declared in the main function. Okay. So void main, right, open blower bracket. So where we have to declare object in the main function, first statement is the place, there we are going to declare object, right? So in the main function, before declaring any variable or writing any function, we have to write one statement. That statement is called object declaration. Okay, and before going to write that thing, let us see the syntax of declaration of object. Syntax of declaration of object. This is very important. In the examination, he is going to ask for 1 mark. That is, write the syntax of declaration of object. See here, class space class name space object 1 comma object 2 comma so on semicolon, so on semicolon. Here class is nothing but keyword. Class is nothing but a keyword, means predefined word. This class name represents for which class you are going to declare object. That class name must be mentioned here. And space object 1, object 2, so on. This statement end with semicolon. Listen here, for a class you can declare any number of objects. That's why I have written here object 1, object 2, so on semicolon. At the end of the object declaration statement we have to put a semicolon. right? And one more thing, this keyword class is optional. Means without writing this keyword class, suppose we started to declaration of object from here, then also no problem, right? This class is a optional. You may write or may not. What is the syntax? Class name space object 1, object 2, so on, object n, end with the semicolon. So this is the declaration of object. Now let us see how to implement this syntax in programming. Void main flower bracket, open flower bracket. In the main function where we have to declare objects, very first statement of the main program. Therefore, now we have to take this syntax in the main function first statement. So this keyword class is a keyword, it is an optional, so leave it. So what is the class name? First we have to write class name. Suppose we created a class called date means what we have to do now? We have to consider class name as date space object 1, object 2, so on, object n. That's why take today, date of birth, DOB means date of birth, DOJ means date of join, semicolon, right? So on, this main program code end with main program. So this very first statement in a main program indicates what? Declaration of objects. So like this we are going to declare objects for the class. Now let us see one more example. Let us see. The following program segment shows how to declare objects for the class. Now consider a class called student. Right? When we are going to consider student as class means write down private. What will be the data member? Char student name, char address, integer, marks, and one more int type variable, register number. Right? These are what? Data members. Right? Now consider member functions in public section. Void input function, void display function, and class end with the semicolon, right? Class end with the semicolon. Means this is what? Simple a class with the data members. These four variables represents data members, right? And these two functions represents member functions. Now, just now I said objects can be declared in a two way. First one is a very first statement in the main function. Second one, where we have to declare objects. Objects are going to be declared after immediate closing of class, after immediate closing bracket of class before semicolon. Means now here we have to create objects. S1, S2, S3, semicolon. This is what? Declaration of objects. Declaration of objects. Here what happens? For the class student, we are going to declare three objects, S1, S2, S3. Suppose we are going to declare objects in this place, means after immediate closing of flower bracket before semicolon, we are going to declare object, means need not to write class name once again, because class is not closed. Before closing class, we are going to declare objects. So these objects belongs to this student class. This student class. This object declaration is also done in another way, that is, or that is in the main program as follows. Means first we have to create class as it is. Class student open flower bracket private, consider the same data member, char name of 30, char address of 50. See here, for name maximum 30 character I am considering. Address, of course, more space is needed, that's why I taken here 50. Int marks, comma, register number, semicolon, and what are the data members? Member functions, public, colon, void, input function, semicolon, void, display function, semicolon, close the bracket with the semicolon. This is what? End of class student. Right? Now see here, now we have to declare objects S1, S2, S3 for the class student in the main function. How it is possible means, after closing class with a semicolon, you consider the main function. Here space is not there, that's why I am writing here. Void main function, where to declare objects for the class in the main function, a very first statement. Therefore, in the void main function, Now we have to create objects. Here objects are created before closing the class, right? Therefore we are not followed syntax of object, means we leave name of the class, but in the main function we have to compulsorily write name of the class. It indicates those objects belongs to that class. Therefore, what is the name of the class? Student. Therefore, consider student. What are the objects? S1, S2, S3, S1, S2, S3, semicolon, and afterwards write the necessary statements of the main program and close the main program. So what happens here? This statement indicates what? Object creation. This statement indicates what? Object creation. This S1, S2, S3 are the three objects of the class student. Of the class student, right? Like this, in this way, it is possible to create objects for the class. This is nothing but creating object for the class before going to close the class. This is what? Another way, creating objects for the class in the main function. In the main function. Like this, we have to follow any one way to create objects for the class in the program. Suppose we are going to write on a C++ program using class and object, means we have to declare objects. For the object declaration, two ways are there. We have to follow any one. First thing, we have to declare objects before going to close the class, or we can declare objects in the very first statement of the main function, right? So this is how to create an object concept. Now let us say accessing members of a class. Accessing members means both data members as well as member functions of a class. How to access these data members? How to access these member functions? Because objects are declared in the main function, right? So how to access these data member? How to access these member functions using objects which are there in the main program? That thing we are going to discuss right now. Accessing members of a class. It means accessing data members of a class as well as accessing member functions of a class. This accessing data members or member functions of a class is done with the help of an operator called dot operator, that is indicated by a small dot. This is called dot operator. Dot operator. That is accessing of members of a class is done with the help of an operator called dot operator. Now let us see one by one. accessing data members of a class. Accessing data members of a class. Right. Accessing data members of a class. This is done accessing data members of a class. Object name dot data member semicolon. Now see how to access member functions. This is what accessing data members of a class. Accessing member functions of a class. Same thing. Object name dot data member. Then instead of data member, object name dot member functions. Object name dot member function. Member function semicolon. Member function semicolon. Let us see some examples. Example 1. Now just we created a class called student. There we declared data members as marks, name, address, register number, right? So now let us see how to access register number, how to access marks of a student with the help of dot operator means object name. Suppose for the student class we created object S1, S2, S3 so on, right? Take any one object. Suppose I am taking S1 as object. Next dot take data member. Take any data members of the class student. For example, S1 dot register number semicolon. S1 dot marks semicolon, like this. In the similar way, how to access member functions of a class means just we considered a class called student. There we considered member functions like input member function, display member function, right? So consider object name is, suppose object name is S means, S2 means, you take any object. Suppose S2 is object means S2 dot input function semicolon, S2 dot display function semicolon. Like this, it is possible to access members of a class with the help of a operator called dot operator. It is possible to access members, data members of a class with the help of a special operator called dot operator. It is possible to access member functions of a class with the help of an operator called dot operator. So this is what syntax of accessing data members of a class. What is the syntax? Object name dot data member semicolon. And this is what syntax for accessing member functions of a class. What is the syntax? Object name dot member function. Object name dot member function. So like this, we have to access members of a class. What this input function is going to perform action, what this display function is going to perform action means, this input function is going to allow accept student information using object S2, right? This input function is going to allow access student info through object S1, right? S2 dot input function means this object is going to allow this function to accept student information. Similarly, S2 dot display function means this object is going to allow access, is going to allow student information of the object S2. So this is what accessing member functions of a class. In the next class, it is possible to write a simple C++ program using classes and object concept. Okay, in the next class, just we are going to write one simple program using the concept called class, object. Whenever the concept comes using the class means that class must contain data member as well as member functions. For those member functions, we can write the code inside the class as well as inside the class or outside the class. It is our choice. After writing code and everything for the member functions, now the next thing is access those member functions, data members as well as member functions, and that is possible with the help of a special operator called dot operator. So today we discussed accessing of data member as well as accessing of member functions. In the next class, we are going to write a C++ program using class and object concept. Then in detail we are going to know how it is possible, how to access the data members of a class as well as member functions of a class can be accessed. That thing we are going to discuss in the next class. Thank you.